Hello, welcome to my channel where we get cozy because it's called Cozy with Josie. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about some book recommendations, and as per the name, like where else to start than cozy books. So yeah, this last year I've kind of been on the quest to find a genre or just certain books that give me comfort, and this is kind of my list so far. And yeah, I hope that these can bring you some joy, can give you like a bookish hug. That's what I'm always kind of going for, like a book that just kind of warms your heart, makes you feel all the kind of cozy, heartwarming feels. I'm really excited to share them with you. Sit back, relax, maybe also get like a nice little hot cup of tea and just get cozy. How many times can I say cozy in this video? We'll see. The first book I want to start with is a book I read earlier this year, and it really gave me everything I needed at the time. I kept saying to my sister that I need a bookish hug, and this book gave me that. And it is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. We're following our main character, Zachary, and he stumbles upon a book in a library and reads a story in there that is about his own life that nobody knew about. And from there, it kind of sets off into this very magical adventure of him just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And us as the reader, alongside Zachary, we're just very confused a lot of the time. So you kind of have to like just let yourself be taken on this journey and just kind of let things be, you know? The reason why I recommend this is because it has just beautiful descriptions of a whole bunch of scenery. In the beginning, we're already getting these amazing vibes of Zachary being at university. It's very snowy outside and he's in this library kind of browsing books. And then later in the book, like as he's on his adventure, at one point we're in this huge kind of underground library. And there's just beautiful descriptions of like decor, rooms, candlelight, and kind of little nooks and alcoves where there's like places to read and stuff. So yeah, the imagery is amazing. It just has immaculate vibes. And yeah, the journey itself, like kind of the plot itself, is also so whimsical and magical. Like all of that just kind of transports you into this world and kind of makes you just want to sit in a blanket all day and read, and I think that's just the perfect cozy book. So yeah, that's my first recommendation, The Starless Sea. And then of course I recommend The Starless Sea without also recommending The Night Circus by the same author. This book has the same kind of amazing writing, so that's why I also want to recommend it, because I enjoyed these in equal measures. I think The Starless Sea even a bit more, just because it did give me exactly what I needed at the time. But this is similar. We're on a very magical journey, and some of the time we're just not really sure what's happening. But that's kind of also the fun of it, because you're always kind of wanting to find out what is going on. And in this book particularly, we're following a circus that kind of just pops up overnight. So nobody can like predict where the circus will be next. And then just overnight, it'll pop up with these amazing like black and white tents, and all the acts that are happening are all really like peculiar and magical. And behind the scenes, there's kind of this magical duel going on between two magicians. That's really like all I would want to say about it, because it really does not begin to cover what's going on in here. But that's kind of the idea. There's a bit of romance in there as well. But again, I think the focus here is really about the whole atmosphere. The vibes, again, are just so good. And if you can kind of just let yourself be taken on this journey, I think you'll have an amazing time. So yeah, if you've read either one of these and enjoyed them, like pick up the other one. It's so worth it. Too hot. Too hot. Okay, next on our list is kind of a fantasy / sci-fi. I don't know, I think it could be classified as both. and that is A Psalm for the Wild Build by Becky Chambers. This is a really small book. It's also the first book in a series. I haven't read the second book yet, but I really want to. This book is about a world in which robots have kind of gained self-awareness and collectively said, nah, we're done with the humans. We don't want to work for you anymore. We're going into the wilderness, leave us alone, and we're just gonna do our own thing. And then like 200 years later, one of the robots is kind of coming back to the humans in order to check in and kind of see what's going on. We end up following one robot and one tea monk, and they kind of just meet and start talking about humanity. So the robot wants to answer the question, like, what do humans need? And they start forming this unlikely friendship and kind of just venturing out in the wilderness, kind of talking about all these different things. We have this beautiful book of very low stakes, of a beautiful world where nature is thriving, humans are living like in a way that's sustainable. And then we have this really wholesome friendship between our robot and the monk as they kind of are on a quest together to answer this question. And yeah, again, this is just a bookish hug, like the definition of a bookish hug. If you need low stakes, high amount of comfort and heartwarmingness, is that a word? I don't know. This is your guy. Okay, so next on our list, basically I couldn't make this video without mentioning it because yeah, this is like the definition of cozy again. And it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And in this book, we're in a world where some people, some beings are born as like magical beings, so they can have like a variety of abilities, but all of these people have to be registered by the department in charge of magical youth. And around the country, this world, kind of, there is a bunch of orphanages where, yeah, just a bunch of children are collected that are having magical abilities, but for some reason or another are orphans. And our main character, he's just going around these orphanages and making sure that these kids are okay, that it's all within regulation and stuff like this. And one day he is sent to an island where there's like a house with like the most dangerous children, magical youth beings that like have ever lived or something. So he goes off on this journey to an island in the Cerulean Sea in order to check what's going on. So then what's happening is that Linus just starts to become very fond of these children, as well as the master of the orphanage, his name is Arthur. And there's also a bit of like a romance situation going on, and it's just a story of found family and kind of people coming together and being allowed to be themselves. If you haven't picked up this one yet, for whatever reason, take this as your sign. It's really sweet, it's really cozy, and yeah, just a fun time. And then kind of in a similar spirit as to The House in the Cerulean Sea, I want to recommend the next book, which I just very recently finished, and that is A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And this book is kind of very similar to The House in the Cerulean Sea in the sense that we have an outsider going to a house where we have some orphanage children and they're magical. And basically in this book we have our main character Mika, who's a witch, but nobody can know that, so she lives kind of in secrecy. She does have kind of a group of witches that meet up once in a while, but they're not allowed to have contact between each other. So yeah, basically she's living a very lonely life, but she makes videos on YouTube basically, pretending to be a witch, but she's actually a witch. And then one day she gets an email from someone asking her to come live with them in a house to teach 3 young witches. And first she's of course like, I'm not supposed to be like saying that I'm a real witch, but then like she does end up going. And what happens is that she starts living there, she starts teaching these young witches, and we also again have a bit of a romance going on between her and the librarian of the house where they live. So what we have is basically again a kind of tale of found family, as well as like this very soft and gentle romance going on as well. I really liked that the romance wasn't like too in your face, but it was kind of, yeah, it was there. And yeah, again, we have these magical, soft vibes, and this also takes place in, I think, October through kind of Christmas, so it's also a really good read for the fall time, I would say. Yeah, so also, again, if you kind of like this one, I think you might enjoy this one, and vice versa. So check it out. The next book I want to recommend is actually a series, and it's quite an old series, but it's like, this to me, it's also a personal thing, but this is very much the ultimate comfort read for me, and that is the Precious Gems series. This is the German version of the third book in the series, so if you're not German speaking, this cover will be very unfamiliar to you probably. But if you didn't know, the Precious Gem series was actually written in German by Kirsten Gier. And I read this series when I was about like 14 or 15, I think. It's so nostalgic to me, but the story itself like also just really holds up. I reread these in 2020. I currently only have the third book in the series because I lent out the first and the second one to a friend of mine. So that's the one I'm showing you right now. So random. So let me tell you about this series. It's a series about time travel, and yeah, it's a young adult. So we're following our main character Gwen, and she's 15 years old, just about to turn 16. She's part of this big family, and she has always known, or her family knows, that like her cousin was supposed to be the one that is going to be time traveling, because as they turn 16, that's when you kind of gain the ability to time travel. And then on the birthday of the cousin, when she's supposed to turn 16, she doesn't end up time traveling, but Gwendolyn is actually the one that starts disappearing back into time. And yeah, there's this kind of society that's all like concerned with this whole time travel thing, because there's also another family where the males of the family have this kind of gene that makes them time travel. So yeah, she's taken into this society where she meets Gideon, which is the guy that's able to time travel, and he's a bit older than her, and he has been time traveling for a while. And yeah, in this series we also got a bit of a romance going on between them, and it's just the perfect romance. I don't know, I think it's because it's such a nostalgic book for me, but this series will always have my heart. It's just so good. So basically the whole series is about Gwen kind of trying to figure out what this whole society is about, and like why they're all so obsessed with it. There's also a kind of the head of the society lives like, I think in 1700 or something, and they have to like fulfill certain missions for him. And like the cousin of Gwendolyn, she has been trained her entire life to kind of speak French, speak like Old English, and kind of be able to go into the past without being noticed. But Gwen, she's not been trained for any of this, so it's really difficult for her to kind of try to fit in. And everyone is annoyed with her being there because they didn't want her, they wanted her cousin to be the one with the time traveling gene. So yeah, it's just the funnest time. And there's 3 books in the series, so if you enjoy the first book, you can just binge them all. There's also movies that have been made in German, but I think they have been dubbed with English, so you can watch those as well. Again, this series is such a comfort book for me, but also I think like anyone can still enjoy it now, like even if you're already older. Like I said, I lent this out to my friend. Hi Jill. She really enjoyed it as well, so I think anyone can still enjoy it. Most of the time it's very fast paced, a lot of things are going on, it's very high stakes, like basically her life is on the line, and we also have the romance that's going on. So there's a lot of things that like keep you hooked and keep you wanting to read, especially because you have no idea like what is actually going on in this society, so you really want to find out what's going on. Great time. Don't let this weird cover deter you. So good. Then I want to move on to some non-fantasy reads. The next book I want to recommend is also a young adult, but I think it's, again, can be enjoyed by anyone, and that is Loveless by Alice Oseman. In this book, we're following our main character, Georgia, and she's just about to go to college, and she's never had a relationship, she's never had a crush, she's never really been like romantically involved with anyone. And as she goes off to college, she kind of starts to realize that she might be asexual slash aromantic. And yeah, we're just kind of following her coming into herself and kind of realizing her sexuality. The reason I'm recommending this for kind of cozy books is because, yeah, it's a very kind of wholesome story of her just coming into her own. And then we also got this setting of university. It's just kind of her making new friends, her kind of joining a theater group, and at the same time starting to like contemplate her sexuality. We also have just a very cute group of friends, and there's also like a side romance going on, which is also really wholesome. I cannot quite pin my like finger on why I find this such a cozy book, but yeah, if you're looking for like a university book with kind of low stakes and good friendships, I think this is a good one. Next on this list, I want to recommend kind of a cozy mystery, which is also, I think, a big thing at the moment. But I haven't really heard this book being talked a lot about, but to me, this is again such a cozy book. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. It's Anxious People by Frederick Buckman. In this book, there is kind of a hostage situation. Basically, a bank robber was trying to rob a bank. That didn't really work out, so they ran into another building just to kind of hide from the cops. Ended up running into an apartment that was being viewed at the moment. So the bank robber holds everyone hostage who's in the apartment. So we're getting scenes from inside the apartment of what's going on there, as well as following two policemen who are kind of not really equipped to be dealing with this situation, but yeah, we're having like both sides of it. And the whole thing is in a very light-hearted manner, while also dealing with some more serious subject matter. There is definitely like a trigger warning for suicide in this, because that is a major theme in this book, but I think it's dealt with in a very good way, as well as still being very funny and kind of heartwarming, because we're like all of these people that are at the viewing, they have their own story of why they ended up at the viewing, and they all have their own kind of struggles that are going on, and as they're being held hostage, they're like talking about certain things in their lives, and I don't know, it's just it really hooks you because you want to know what's going on. Like you're kind of confused, and you're on the like getting the insight of the cops that are trying to figure this out, trying to kind of like free the hostages, and then we're also inside the apartment seeing what's going on there. And we're just kind of rooting for everyone in this situation. There was like a plot twist in this that I did not see coming, and this entire book was just so like charming. I don't know. It's a great read that will make you smile, I think, and yeah, very comforting, I think. Okay, and the second to last book I want to recommend is actually a classic, which I don't read a lot of classics, but recently I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I recommend this because, again, the vibes. I don't know, that's like, I think what makes cozy books for me is just the overall vibe that's going on. I think a lot of people kind of know what Jane Austen books are about, but specifically in Pride and Prejudice, we're following Lizzie Bennet, and she is a young woman just, you know, in society trying to find a husband. That's what all these women do in these books. And I don't know, there's not a lot happening at all in this book. We're just following these characters kind of going on walks, talking about kind of the social drama that's going on, and that's honestly, that's it. That's all that's going on. There is obviously like romance going on between several characters, because they're all just kind of trying to find husbands, and that's the ultimate goal that's going on. But I found this cozy because it's kind of, there's again very low stakes. We're just kind of seeing like who will end up with each other. That's all that like is happening basically. but I don't know, the whole setting of like England in the 1800s. We also have this very subtle humor going on throughout the book, especially the Lizzie's dad. I thought was kind of funny. He was always like a bit sarcastic. I don't know. I would say this is definitely not for everyone. I know classics are not for everyone. I'm still kind of trying to venture into them right now. As a side note, if you like are not interested in maybe reading this but are still kind of enjoying the idea of the vibes in it, maybe check out the movie adaptations because those are great as well. Like, it's just kind of the vibes in this but on a movie screen, and you don't have to make the effort of reading like Old English. So maybe check out that. If you enjoyed Bridgerton, this is where that comes from basically. So check out the movies, check out Austen's books. I think I definitely want to read some of her other works as well. Watch some more of the adaptations, stuff like this. It's a cozy situation. Okay, the last book I want to recommend today, I have actually not read, but I think it is a good pick for this list, and I definitely want to check it out as well. It's called Legends and Lattes, and this book is, as far as I know, about like an ogre, I think, who goes and wants to open a coffee shop in this town where there hasn't been no coffee shop before, and we're just following her as she is trying to open her shop, and that's it. I think that's the story in like a magical setting. We have all these magical creatures and coffee. And that's it. And that sounds so good to me. I've heard a couple of people talk about this book and describe it as very cozy. So I definitely want to pick that up as well and wanted to kind of add it onto this list. But if I end up hating it or you end up not liking it, don't blame me, because I haven't read it. I cannot vouch for it entirely, but I think it's gonna be a good one. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the cozy, heartwarming, comforting recommendations that I have for you today. I hope you could find something that kind of sparks your interest. So yeah, I hope you're cozy on your couch right now with a blanket and a cup of tea and hopefully a cozy book. And I wish you all the best. Have a great day, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!